Between the years 1880 and 1910, 2.5 million Jews came to the United States. Most Jews living in America today are descendants of these immigrants. Perhaps your great-grandparents were among them. They came here to begin a new life. The first thing they saw in the New World was the Statue of Liberty. They came from the Old World, from Eastern Europe, the gray area on this map. It was a large area called the Pale of Jewish Settlement. Sometimes it belonged to Poland, sometimes to Russia. 5 million Jews lived in the Pale, some in large cities like Warsaw, some in little villages like this one, with cobblestone streets and horses and carts. Today, all these towns are gone. But photographs were taken, and through these pictures, we can visit a Shtetl. The word Shtetl means little Jewish town. The center of town was the marketplace, where most people worked. People were named for their occupations. Your family name may tell you what work your great-grandfather did for a living. The name Kaufman, for example, means merchant. Many merchants sold their wares in the marketplace. A shop might be a rickety stand like this woman's, or a cart of straw from which the baker sold his bread and rolls. This man had to close his store because he had no money to buy merchandise. Almost half of the Jews in the Shtetl were merchants. The family name Schneider means tailor. The tailor repaired old clothes more often than he made new ones. Most people in the Shtetl were very poor. Do you know anyone named Sandler? Well, they had shoemakers in their family. The wagon maker mended broken wheels, and the wagon driver owned a wagon and a broken-down horse. Often he and his horse lived in the same room. A band of musicians played at weddings and at celebrations in the synagogue. When people could not collect enough rain in pots and pans, they paid a water carrier to bring them water. No Shtetl had running water. These Jews are looking for work at the town pump. It was hard to make a living in the Shtetl. When life is hard, Jews try to laugh away their troubles. Jewish humor is very special. A poor man once came to the rabbi. "What shall I do, Rabbi? Whatever I try fails. If I sell umbrellas, it doesn't rain. If I sell coffins, nobody dies." "Become a baker," said the rabbi. "Then at least you'll have bread in the house." "But I don't have money to buy flour," the poor man said. "You don't have flour?" said the rabbi. "Well, so then you won't be a baker." The Jews were financially poor, but they were spiritually rich. They were rich in tradition and in learning and in faith. Daily life was built around prayer. Morning, afternoon, and evening, Jews prayed. The synagogue was the center of their life. The synagogue, or shul, was always on the main street. It might have been a large building or a small wooden shul, just large enough for the congregation. In the center of the room was the bima, a raised platform for reading the Torah. The Holy Ark stood on the eastern wall so that the congregation could face Jerusalem. The worshippers sat on wooden benches. A seat along the eastern wall was an honor. Once an honored member complained to a poor neighbor, "Why do you pray so fast? It's a disgrace. It takes me twice as long to say my prayers." "Who can compare with you?" the poor man said. "You have gold and silver. You have a fine house and horses and a carriage. It takes time to go over all that with God. Now I, on the other hand, I have only a wife, 8 children, and a goat. All I have to say to God is, wife, children, goat, and I'm through. The poor man lived on an unpaved street, dusty in dry weather and muddy when it rained. The wooden houses stood close together. If one house caught fire, the whole Shtetl could burn down. A large town might have a volunteer fire brigade. Inside the poor man's house, the air was heavy with smoke, for a fire burned night and day. By day, it was used for cooking. By night, for warmth. A woman asked her husband to get out of bed to close the window. "It's cold outside," she complained. He didn't move. "Close the window, it's cold outside," she nagged. To which he answered, "No, and if I close the window, will it be warm outside?" There were only 2 rooms in the house. Furnishings were simple. But there were books in every home, no matter how poor. Most Jews spent some of their time studying. At a time when most people could neither read nor write, every Jewish boy began to learn the Hebrew alphabet at the age of 3. School was held in the teacher's home nearby. The teacher, or malamud, barely made a living from the few coins the parents paid him. One malamud was so poor that he had no glass in his spectacles. When asked why he wore them, he said, "Well, they're better than nothing." In the cheder, or schoolroom, the boys sat on wooden benches around long, narrow tables. On the first day of school, the child was given honey to eat, to teach him that learning is sweet. But after that, learning was endless repetition. Each letter, each syllable, each word was memorized. Only religious subjects were studied. The boys learned Torah and Siddur. Brighter students continued their studies in the yeshiva. Others went to work. A girl's schoolroom was her mother's kitchen. She learned to sew and to cook. Many foods originated in Shtetl. Gefilte fish, chicken soup, chopped liver. This drawing shows a woman making matzah balls for Passover. Girls did not study the Torah, but they were taught to read from the prayer book, and they learned to be good wives. The matchmaker arranged marriages for a fee. The matchmaker, or Shtetl, kept a list of available boys and girls. Sometimes the bride and groom did not meet until an agreement was reached. After meeting the man she was to marry, a girl complained to the matchmaker. "He limps." "But only when he walks," the matchmaker explained. Shtetl life was based on the Shulchan Aruch, a book of Jewish law. Disagreements were brought to the rabbi for settlement. When a man was unable to pay his debts, when a thief was caught, the rabbi judged these cases. In this painting, the rabbi examines a chicken. If the rabbi said that the meat was not kosher, it was not eaten, no matter how hungry you might be. Poverty was widespread. Begging was a profession. The beggar was called a schnorrer. A woman took pity on a schnorrer and invited him to eat. A pile of dark bread and a few slices of challah were on the table. But the schnorrer ate only the challah. "There's dark bread too," the woman hinted. "I like challah better," the schnorrer answered. "But challah is more expensive," the woman complained. "Believe me," said the schnorrer, "it's worth it." Special tzedakah organizations were founded for each charity task. One collected clothing for the needy, another collected money for the wedding of a poor girl, orphanages cared for homeless children, and burial societies arranged for funerals and provided cemetery plots. Each synagogue had its charity box. Often contributors were close to poverty themselves. Once the rabbi's wife asked him what he prayed for. The rabbi answered, "My prayer is that the rich will give more to the poor." "Do you think God heard your prayer?" his wife asked. "I'm sure he heard at least half," replied the rabbi. "The poor have agreed to accept." Jews spoke their own language, Yiddish. This is the way Yiddish sounds in sentences. Geh, learn. Das ist auf der Welt der beste Essig. Besser mit der Tugend zu verlernen, eider mit der Nahe zu gewinnen. The Jewish villages of Eastern Europe have disappeared. The people are gone. Your great-grandparents left their shtetl for a new life in America. Many settled on the east side of New York, on streets that looked like the ones they'd left behind. Some of their brothers and sisters went to Israel to build a Jewish homeland. Almost all those who stayed in Europe were murdered in concentration camps during World War II. But some of the shtetl way of life became a part of American Jewish living. Many words in our English language, maven, nash, chutzpah, are Yiddish. Many of the foods we enjoy, blintzes, latkes, lox and bagels, were created in the shtetl kitchens. Comedians still use that special shtetl humor to make us laugh today. And when we study, worship, give, play, celebrate, we look at the shtetl